Welcome to all of you to the Parrsboro United Baptist Church. We thank the Lord that you are present with us in the course of this morning and ask that you might rain blessing upon you because you yourselves have blessed us with your presence here. We are taking a single verse reading from 1 Samuel in chapter 30, the 60th verse. And from that we shall draw our thoughts for today. David was greatly discouraged, deeply distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him because his soul, the soul of all the people, was grieved, every man for his sons and daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. Presently, all of us will be moved by what is happening in the western part of our country, where so many are dying because they are misusing drugs. What is the very reason for which they do that? To keep themselves away from pain, or better still, they think, to get on cloud nine, but they end up losing their lives. So it is greatly disturbing to see that prohibited drugs are used to destroy lives. The risks that go with it have not stopped those engaged in it from actually continuing with the practice. It's all about excitement. Sadly, they resort to measures which do not help them, harm them, and at worst, kill them. And there are several of us who may be sad, hurting, disappointed, discouraged. It may be on account of some experience elsewhere, but it also could be because of an experience you've had within the church. Something you want to change that hasn't changed, something you want to happen that doesn't happen, and it hurts. None of us is free from trouble. What matters is what happens after facing the trouble. And this is where David becomes a great lesson for us to look at and draw from his experiences what may be helpful to us to get over discouraging, disheartening, and distressing experiences. 3 areas in which David may help us, or better still, we can reduce them to 2. First, let's see that pain is very discouraging. There is the discouragement of pain. And in the instance in which we meet with David, he was distressed, discouraged for several reasons. And these reasons are owing to a loss in his life. In fact, losses. He'd lost his wife. No, not just his wife. His wives. We read about Ahinoam and Abigail, both of whom were gone. Because as the story read, he had assisted, at least on the surface, going to assist the Philistines in fighting the enemies. And upon his return to his village of Abod, he and those who went with him discovered that their village had been attacked and that every soul had been taken away. And among those who had gone were David's wives, and perhaps children if he had some. And the others wept all the much because they had not only lost property, they had lost their own children, their own precious families. And they blamed it all on David, who had taken them to war. And David had none to turn to among humans. His wives are gone, his children are gone, his property is also gone, for the village has been burnt. So if you like, there was no more money left. It was all gone. No land. Can you speak of any courage? Because nobody sided with him. Everybody spoke of stoning him because each was distressed on account of their loss. And so the pain was unspeakable. There was also the loss of trust. How could they trust this man who had now brought them to this point where they experienced such pain? And so you can see David's situation was deeply painful. But the good side is he came to see the power of learning a lesson through difficult situations. For David did not focus on the difficulties he was faced with. David looked rather to the God who was able to help him. And this is our second thought, but the last of our thoughts. David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. So from the pain of discouragement, we see the pleasure of encouragement. And this is the pleasure. David found strength in the Lord his God. David looked to God and drew encouragement from his God. What was it about his God that should have made David become encouraged in this God? This David had grown up shepherding his father's flock, and he had gone in places where they were attacked by lions or bears. And he does remember how with bare hands he tore those preying animals with his bare hands, and he credited it to the God who had undertaken to save them during those situations. He remembers that when the children of Israel faced the Philistines and they shied away from this giant called Goliath, he it is with 5 smooth stones and a sling that went and killed this giant, hitting with one single stone and going to cut the giant's head off with the giant's own sword. He could not have done that in his own strength. So he had reason to look back and see that the God who had seen him through in time past was not going to fail him during this situation, during this difficult time. He remembered that he had been secure, running away from King Saul, who was chasing after him as if he were an enemy. And in fact, when he had instances when he could have killed Saul, he did not. Those around him did encourage him. You have your enemy, take off his head and be free. He said he would not raise his hand against God's anointed. And so he spared Saul. But the man did seek David, and at the least open opportunity was going to kill him. But David had been made safe in the hands of the God in whom he trusted. He could remember all that, and so he knew if there was no other resort, no other place of help, he would find one in the living God. So David realized he now could be as sure as he had been in the past that God would be sure and unmistakable and unfailing and irreversible help. To that God he turned. And we do see that the moment David turned to that God, he was relieved. For notice, he prays to his God, shall I go after the band that attacked my village? Shall I overtake them? Shall I emerge a victor? So think of the relief that rested upon his soul. The very moment God says, go, you will overtake. Not only does he get that relief, look at the release. Release from fear, release from distrust, release from failure, release from discouragement. Because now he must get up and bring hope to all those around him who are like him discouraged. But others had no way. He had a way because he knew he had a shepherd who would never fail him, who would never forsake him. So David did rely on his God. And what followed, of course, was this rejoicing in God. For before long, we see him return with everybody who was speaking about killing him, now chanting his praise respond, and David has helped us acquire it. So the man they talked about as worth of death now is worth of praise, and the great champion again, but not in his strength, and the strength of the Lord his God. I wonder what your circumstances are as you sit there, whether it's family problems that are wrecking your life, financial difficulties, personal illness or family illnesses, distressing situations, whatever circumstance encircles you, habits that you can't break, weakness to sin, and just inability to be who you hoped you would ever be, it is time you turned and took a gaze at the God who never fails or disappoints those who trust him, but in whom they find strength and ability to rise out of weakness into strength, out of failure into success. David did. Neither will you fail. So be encouraged this day as we hear David encourage himself in his God. And will you?